Have you ever felt like the world of technology, of, I don't know, business is just moving at the speed of light, faster than you can keep up? I mean, really, honestly, friend, it isn't just a feeling, it's a fact. This is the new age that we live in. Information is flowing at us like a fire hose. And today's guest is going to help you future ready your mindset and your business so that you don't get left behind. Are you ever wondering, like, is what I'm doing now going to be obsolete in 6 months? That's what Allister Frost is here to help us prevent against. All right, so I'm excited to bring him on the show. Let's dig in. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe to this show on whatever podcast player you prefer and follow me on Facebook and Instagram.
Is your business the baby that never grows up? It keeps you up at night, interrupts date night, and forget taking a vacation because you can't ever find the right sitter. Good news! Our signature Clockwork Method program turns your business into the independent, thriving operation it was meant to be. We help you build the processes that empower the people to scale with profitability, without you micromanaging every detail. The Clockwork Method isn't just another coaching program that leaves you with a heap of to-dos, just adding more to your plate. In this program, we build the systems with you, handling the big tech heavy lifting that just slows you down. Ultimately, the Clockwork Method is here to help you transform your business from that needy, dependent operation into a mature business that runs itself. Discover more today at theclockworkmethod.com.
Hey friend, welcome back to the Freedom Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Sutherland, and joining me today is Allister Frost, who I'm excited to introduce you to. He's an author and a former Microsoft leader, but right now he specializes in change and transformation. And as many of you know, that is the heart of what we talk about here because as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for, change and transformation. That's what we do. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited for our conversation today.
I'm really looking forward to chatting about, how I discovered that everything we do today is obsolete and that we need to reinvent ourselves. And what I want to help people with is not getting caught up in this obsolescence of not being relevant in the workforce because you haven't kept up with the way the world is moving at the moment.
Yeah, you're so right about that. I mean, and I have a SaaS business where, we do a CRM, and I think, holy mackerel, there's so many changes constantly. I can't even keep up with it. And it's my own business. I mean, that's just to your point, that imagine if it's not your business, or you're thinking about getting into a business, or you're a young person who's looking to get into the world and trying to decide what to do. And with AI, wondering what might be obsolete in the next couple of years. Is it worth going and getting a certification and all of that fun stuff? So you absolutely are spot on. Tell us about your story, though. Like, how did you come to this awareness?
Well, I spent 20 years in the corporate world working for big American organizations. I worked for Kimberly-Clark, and I was a marketing person there looking after brands like Kleenex and Huggies and so on. And then after 10 years there, I joined Microsoft, and I saw this tech thing coming and I thought I wanted a slice of that. So I got myself a ringside seat, and I recognized that the world is moving so quickly. And when I was in the tech sector, of course, we were at the bleeding edge of change. But, what I recognized is there are many industries, many people who are not that close to it and don't necessarily think the same way that tech people do. So that's where I really came up with this idea of a future ready mindset, a new approach to life where we're keeping up. And I've got a lovely process that I talk about in my book that helps people to go away and do that stuff.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. So if we're talking
Yeah.
about future proofing or future proofing mindset, how is that different than keeping up? I mean, that sounds almost like the same thing. So can you clarify
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, well, look, first up, let's be honest. Future proofing is a lie. There is no such thing as future proofing. It's a lie. I used to tell it when I was in the tech sector. Here's a future proof solution. There's no such thing, because I probably like you. I had a future proof laptop 10 years ago, but I sure as heck ain't still using it because it's useless now by modern standards. So it's not about future proofing. And if anybody does say to you, here's a future proof solution, I would just invite you to ask them, well, what's this future you're proofing against, and ask them to describe it in detail, and they won't have a clue because none of us do. So it's not about future proofing. And I also don't like the word future proofing because it kind of sort of almost suggests if I do this, I've ticked the box and I don't need to think about it anymore. It's never like that. I talk about being future ready, which is about thinking ahead to often it's just inevitable changes and challenges that are approaching you and your business and your life, your family, whatever it is. There are so many things, if we're honest and we sit down and think about it, that are coming at us and they're going to change our world. Now we can choose to ignore them and just sort of be dragged along by the change, or we can choose to selectively focus on the things that are interesting to us that we think we should be better at and try and get a little bit ahead of that change so that it doesn't knock us off our pedestal and it actually is something that we can use as a fuel to grow and move forward in the future. I mean, you already mentioned AI, didn't you, Lindsay? And that's a great example. So many of us are seeing AI, we're hearing about it, we're maybe playing with it and thinking, well, this is interesting. But are we being proactive in saying, okay, what can I do with this? What do I need to know? And how can I use it that's different to what others are doing so that I can get some advantage from that change?
Okay, so I'm going to challenge question here, all right?
All right.
How is that? Don't be offended because I'm just thinking, how would that put us in a position to where we aren't distracting ourselves from the truth that we're being led? Like maybe our personality is one of like networking, and so we're really good at networking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're out physically doing that. Would it be a distraction to take time to learn that perhaps, or no? I'm just curious what your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts are on
Yeah,
that.
look, this is a really important thing you're bringing up. A future ready mindset is utterly unique to each person. It's something you have to create for yourself based on what matters to you. And the process that I have, I call it the ready already growth cycle. There are 5 steps in that process, but in the middle of my model is something that I call personal mission, which is the motivator for why you do the job that you do. It's how you earn your success in the service of others. And if your thing is networking and facilitating community engagement or whatever it is, that's your thing. That's your guiding light. That's the North Star. So you don't want to be distracted from that thing because that's what you're passionate about. But the steps on the outside will allow you to then explore things that relate to that personal mission and will allow you to do that not just well today, but well into the future as well. And that's the key thing here. It's not something that you can just sort of borrow from somebody or watch a YouTube video and say, oh, I'll do what they're doing. No, you need to sit down and spend some time with yourself and maybe with your family and friends and colleagues and really work out what your future could be and where you want to be spending your time. Life is short, so this is all about trying to give people the skills that they need today for a future that's kind of approaching us faster than it ever did before.
Ted, can you go into a little more detail on that North Star concept and
Yeah.
like how can one get to the point of knowing their clarity behind that and
Mm.
how does that drive them?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the hardest things for a lot of people, particularly when I deal with people who work in big companies and things. They think their mission or whatever is the company values or whatever the boss has told them to say. And what I try to do is to get people to think about what do you do in the service of others? What is it that your job might be to, I don't know, update a sales spreadsheet and create some reports so everybody knows what's going on. That could be your job, for example. But if that's what you see your job as, that's not a hugely motivating thing. And every day is going to be kind of the same, just a bit more hectic in the future. So what I invite people to do is to think about, okay, if I do my job well, or even if I do it badly, what is the downstream consequence of that? Who benefits or doesn't benefit from what I do? And when you stop and think about it, you realize that there are many things that happen downstream that are frankly amazing. There are people who may build their own businesses. There are people who may, develop some sort of economic prosperity so they could afford to buy a house, to maybe settle down, to adopt or have kids. And you realize actually by doing my job well of creating this sales report, I'm not just helping the salespeople, I'm actually allowing people who work here to have amazing lives, to do great things. And eventually at some point in the future there may be a brother and a sister perhaps who might be playing bat and ball on the beach, and I did that, not directly, but if I don't do my job well, that downstream thing doesn't happen. So the personal mission is really important. Now when I worked at Microsoft, my first job they gave me was looking after email. And I wanted to work on some sort of sexy new technology like Xbox or something fun and exciting. And they gave me email, which of course everybody knows email. It's an old technology. It's pretty dull. And I was looking after Outlook and Exchange Server. And at first I was a little bit depressed about that, but this was the first time I think I really recognized the need for a personal mission for myself. And I realized that the whole world runs on email and nobody's good at it. Everybody hates it. It takes too long. And if I could maybe make 1% of the world 1% better at doing email each day, that's a huge productivity benefit for the world. So the downstream consequences of me getting the right product into the right company, so they're using the technology and they're using it well, is extraordinary. And so my personal mission became, I make the world better at email. That's my job. And I went to work. I still had a job title. I still had to sell licenses and stuff like that for Microsoft. But I went to work. I leapt out of bed on a Monday morning thinking, I'm going to make the world better at email. That's what drove me. And I was buzzing because of that excitement that I had to have an impact. And it doesn't matter if you're, whatever you do, you might be a florist or you might have a one store and that's your business. And that's an amazing thing. But you do incredible things to your local community when you do it well. I don't know what would a florist personal mission be? It might be something like, I, show people they are loved. I give people a way to show that they care for others, whatever that is. And when you reconnect with that, you're not just, buying in supplies and then selling them out at a profit margin. You're changing people's lives.
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful thing when you realize that. And the reason it matters, and this is really important, is the future is going to be harder than today. Change is going to get quicker. There'll be more disruption. There'll be more uncertainty. And you are going to get a lot of knocks, and you are going to have to sort of learn faster potentially in the future than you did in the past. If you've got that North Star, you have a reason to do that, to keep going. If you don't, if you're just doing a job, if you just feel like it's, well, I'm sort of getting by, there's a very real risk that you'll kind of rest back on your laurels. You'll feel like your comfort zone is all you can deal with, and you'll start doing things, you keep doing things the way you do them today.
Well, and
And
it's
that's
almost
the
like
dream.
you're assigning meaning to what you're doing beyond just the transaction of it. So it is motivating that way. How can people, let's say they're in a place right now where they're doing something and it's profitable, but they don't feel fulfilled. Maybe they want to, they have this sense that they're called for something more, but they're not really sure what that is. And
Mm,
they're afraid to change because that could mean upsetting the apple cart.
mm,
Their
mm,
livelihood is built around whatever it is they're doing. Maybe it is a W-2 and they want to transition, or maybe they went into the freelancing world and now they want to maybe get into the coaching world.
mm, mm.
All these
Yeah.
things are coming up. How do you have any wisdom for them to help them through that transition?
Well, can I pick up on the thing that you said about people are afraid of change? And I think that's really important that we recognize our own relationship with change, and we're aware of how it either propels us forward or it holds us back. And actually, human beings, by definition, we are really good at change, literally, because we are the most agile, change capable species on Earth. That's why we're on a call right now on the internet, and other creatures are sort of crawling around in trees or whatever, foraging for food. So that, I mean, that doesn't make us better, but it does mean we are very, very good at change. However, when change comes about, the biggest issue that we have with it is the fear of loss, of what we will lose by taking on the change. And it's actually that biological response to, I don't want to lose what I have, and the risks that we then perceive in a change that often holds us back. So it's worth thinking about, okay, maybe it's a job change that somebody wants to make, or it's a new process, a new way of doing things, and they feel, well, it might go wrong and so on. Think about what is it that you potentially are losing, and why is that holding you back? Because sometimes it's you're losing your sense of comfort, you're losing the familiarity of what you do, maybe you lose friendships because you'll be working in a different way with different people. There are all sorts of losses that could happen with change. But when you focus on those, you actually realize that those losses are not enough of a reason most of the time not to make the change. The
Mm.
change will always move you forwards. You will always learn, you will always grow. And we're very good at change. So change tends to go right. And I talk when I give in keynote talks, I talk a lot about the difference between a change that feels dangerous. Often we assign danger to a change. It's like, oh, well, if this goes wrong, I could lose my house, or I could lose, we think it's a dangerous thing. It's not dangerous. It's probably scary at most. And there's a profound difference between something that's scary and something that's dangerous. And we're really good at change. We can do change, but we do have to sort of pluck up the courage to remind ourselves of that and to have a go.
Mm-hmm.
Very often, and that's something that I feel is a great shame, is that sometimes we just get set in our ways, used to our comfort zone. This is how I do things. This is what I know. This is what I'm capable of. And we forget that we are absolutely capable of learning and growing throughout our whole lives, but we do have to put the effort in to make that happen.
I think it's interesting too, tying back to the whole North Star thing, because if you're in a position where you want to have change, if you have clarity about your North Star, it might be very easy to say, oh, well, the current job or position I'm in isn't leading me towards this ultimate calling, whatever that is. Whereas this other thing could be. When we have that clarity of knowing where our future is, not so much where it is, but like what our
Mm,
hearts are centered on, I think it makes it easier to say no to things and say yes to things. I mean, that was at least true for me. I
mm,
was doing all these different things in my business. One big one was I was committed to being a part of our Chamber of Commerce. And I felt I'm a very loyal person. So when I say yes to something, I'm like
mm,
100% diehard. But it wasn't aligning with where I
mm,
was going. And I find too, I don't know if you've experienced this or if you talk about this in your book, but it almost seems like the more we avoid change, it's inevitable. If our heart is calling us to something bigger, at least in my life, usually something will erupt that forces it. And it's almost,
mm.
to me, it's a God thing. He's like, look, I gave you a chance to go willingly, but you didn't, so there you go. He kicks me out the nest. But I do think, being able to be ready for change ready, is such an important thing, and I think it's a great mindset to have. What do you
Yeah,
have?
it's true. The personal mission thing, as I say, as I mentioned before, it sits at the center of my model because it is the North Star. You can go back to it any time. And so it's very good at filtering out distractions. It's very good at helping you to think about what you can stop doing in order to start doing something else. That's again a problem many people have, is they just do take on more and more and more. And actually, yeah, in your example, you needed to stop doing something in order to free up time for something that was more important to you. But the most common problem I see with personal mission is that people have never really truthfully addressed what it is and identified it, because it's hard, because it does feel like, well, I'm sure I can be lots of things. No, if you focus and you believe in something, then you have so much more fuel to create your future than if you don't. So that tends to be the problem. And often for people who work in organizations, they end up with a sort of a faux personal mission, something that their boss told them is what they're there to do. And I absolutely believe, and I know from my own experience, you can operate in a very large organization if you wish, and you can still be an individual. And actually, you'll add more value when you are true to who you are and to what you believe in. And you bring that diversity to the organization. And of course, if you're an entrepreneur, then you really need that personal mission, because otherwise you can get pulled in 1,000 different directions.
Yeah, definitely. In your book, do you give specific like strategies or exercises for people to do where they can talk about, like maybe journal or
Yeah.
prompts or things like that?
Yeah, it's a super simple thing. So the book is largely it's oriented around this 5-step process that I call the ready growth cycle. And there are the 5 steps. I'll give you them very very briefly, but it's so simple. It's almost that someone said to me, it's almost embarrassingly simple but clever. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what I was aiming at. I've taken out all the fluff, all the nonsense. You can just pick this thing up, and anytime you're stuck, you can say, okay, let's run it around this cycle and see how we get on. So the follow step is about identifying what you need to pay attention to in the near future. So informed by your personal mission, by the change you want to have on the world, what is it that you could be better at, you could understand more, you could master more in the near future? And for a lot of people, it would be things like AI, it might be negotiation skills, it could be anything. It really doesn't matter. It's unique to you. So make that list. That's a great exercise in itself. Make a list of things you're not really very good at. Be honest. And
Mhm.
when you get that list down, pick one thing, the one thing that talks to you most loudly, and say, "That's the one. If I can do one of these things, it's going to be that." Just follow. Then you go to react, and react is about learning creatively about that thing. So don't just go to a search engine or AI and type in, "Oh, what is this thing?" and take the first article as gospel. Do your own research. There's so many ways to learn. You can watch some YouTube, you can go to the library, you can attend a conference. There's loads of stuff you can do. So be creative and really learn the way that works for you, and then choose your reaction. That's why it's called React. is this thing still valid for my future or not? It's really easy to get caught up in the buzz and the excitement of, say, AI. And actually, when you start investigating, you think, isn't the most important thing. I thought it was, but it isn't. This really comes from my time. I used to have a boss who, every time they came into a meeting, they'd have a long list of new things they'd heard about, and I'd scribble them all in my notebook. And it was honestly, it was like watching a dog in a room full of squirrels. It was just like, oh no, what now? Now something new, and we wasted so many cycles, so much energy. It's like, well, what's that? What's that? What's that? Trying things and doing them. And actually, if we just done one thing well, it would have been better. So that's really key.
Oh, I
And
love that. Like that.
yeah.
I just want to add to that right there because I think the most important thing that I want people to remember is our energy. Like be a steward of our energy. And like you
Mm.
just described it, so that was a great depiction. I have dogs that chase squirrels, so I was like clearly envisioning that would be hilarious. But to remember that we only have so much energy,
Mm.
hence the North Star being the first
Yep.
step, right? Like,
Yep.
well, the middle,
Yeah.
you said the middle, but my
Yep.
point is to get that before they know what they're becoming. So
Mm.
continue. That
Mm.
was just really
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. So it's about focus in follow, and then making sure you've chosen the right thing. There are so many things you can do with your life. Don't waste time chasing squirrels. Focus on what matters to you. And then the three remaining steps of the five are what I call superhuman powers. They're things that human beings can do better than any technology. And I come from the tech sector, so my belief is that AI, large language models, all of the stuff that will follow in the future, it will never do these three things as well as our brilliant biological human brains, because our brains just work in a different way. We don't even understand it. And they basically boil down to the third step is called open. So open your mind to possibilities. So this is by accepting that your experience, what got you to here, may be the enemy to your future, because it tells you how things are done, not how things could be done. So the thing with open is to just look at your world, look at your business, look at the thing you're focusing on, like maybe a 5-year-old child with absolute curiosity. You know how kids will always ask questions that begin with why. Why do I have to wear shoes? Why do I have to eat food? And why? Because they do that because they're making sense of the world and trying to feel safe within it. As adults, we stop asking why. And when you look at your business or your world afresh, you say, why do we have a meeting on a Monday? Why do we send paper invoices? You can just challenge things and realize actually they could be different. You create space in your mind for a new possibility to come in. But we don't see what is right in front of us because we don't ask those why questions. And honestly, I've done this with so many businesses. And actually, you realize nothing makes any sense here, does it? It's just the way it is. It's just what we do, but it could all be better.
It's
So that's
funny.
open.
There's this parable I heard. I think it was based on a true story, and it's a modern. It's not like a biblical parable or anything, but there's a wife and she's cooking a roast and she cuts off both ends and puts it in her pan and she cooks it. And her husband says, I noticed you do that. Why do you do that? Why do you cut off the ends? It seems like really good, seems like good meat. I don't get it. She's like, I don't know. My mom always did it. So then they call her mother and they say, Mama, why do you do this? And she says, I don't know. That's what my grandmother did. And so they call the grandmother, and the grandmother says, because my pan was very narrow and I couldn't get the meat in there without
I
cutting
love
it.
that. It's brilliant. But that's the truth of it. There's so much that we do that because we're on autopilot, because we're busy people, you don't stop to sort of question, well, does that make sense for me anymore? And when you ask why, like a child with naive curiosity, and it really takes courage, this, you don't have to say it out loud. You can ask it of yourself. You start to realize, oh, actually, there is that could be something else. That part of my business could be done in a different way. There's so many changes. So that's open. It's opening your mind. But what open doesn't do is give you answers about, well, what could I fill that void with? What else could it be? So that's where surprise comes in. And that's just the ability to have bold imagination, to try to have non-obvious but potentially valuable ideas about what you could do. So say, well, what if we tried this? What if I used AI to automate that process? What if we got a bigger pan? You just start to have ideas, not with the hope of finding the perfect idea, but the goal is to have some ideas. And the reason that we often don't have ideas is we self-censor ideas. We sort of hear ourselves saying and think, well, that won't work. Boss won't like that. That will cost too much. That's not possible. When we allow ourselves to have ideas that can be outlandish, wild, crazy, whatever, we might just stumble upon something that is the seed of something that will be realistic and practical. But at the first point in discovering the idea, it's completely nuts. But you have to be prepared to go there. And that's why surprise is such an important thing. Again, it's a trick, it's a hack we're playing on our brains to stop us from not having good ideas because we know we can't, and just allowing ourselves to have bold ideas. Because
Mm-hmm.
the final step, again, this is something that computers will never do as well as us, is called tell. And that is about getting a few people you trust, maybe work colleagues, maybe people in your network, whatever, and creating the right environment where you tell them what you've been thinking about, what some of your ideas are, and then you try to create an additive, supportive environment where they make your ideas better. They bring your ideas back to reality, not you. Because and the key words that I try to get people to use here is if somebody hears your idea, tell them to start their response with the words yes and, not no but or no because, or that's the default setting. When we have the courage to say yes and that might work, and I think I know a guy who does something like that, I could maybe give him a call. Yes, and we need to check the legality of that, whatever. Suddenly you're being additive and you're actually making the ideas go places. It's such a simple hack, but those three things: open, surprise, and tell, which are naive curiosity, bold imagination, and brilliant human to human communication in a constructive way, they will allow you to sort of turn those ideas into something that maybe your future, maybe the change that you need to make in your life, your business, whatever it is that you're pursuing.
I love it. Thank you for walking us through that. That was really helpful for sure. Where can people get a copy of your book?
You can buy it online. The obvious place, the big Amazon place, of course. It's called Ready Already, but you can also get it at other bookshops as well. So if you hunt online for Ready Already, which is all one word, you should be able to find it. And it's a by design, it's a quite a short book. I don't know how many pages it is. I've lost track. 100 and 200 pages, something like that. Quite a short book. It's quick, nice, easy read. Because I don't want people to spend a load of time reading a long, heavy book. Because I never managed to do that. So I want people to be able to read something in a few sessions and think, right, I can do this, and get started right away. Because your future is too important to spend wasting time learning a complex model. I will show you how to do it. Simple exercises, and you can start creating your future right away.
I love it. Well, and I love that you're saying create your future rather than sitting on your laurels, waiting for your future to happen, or, being, as they say, don't, what did you say in your bio? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Oh yeah, that was the line that I grew up with in my early career. It was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at Microsoft, Bill Gates was using a line from Marshall McLuhan that said, "Today, if something works, it's already obsolete." And
Mm,
those two things are completely diametrically opposed. So that was a real wake up call for me when I realized, oh, just because it ain't broke doesn't mean you can't fix it. Everything can be improved. That's the speed at which the
yeah.
world moves, because someone somewhere has figured out a smarter way to do it. So take that idea of, if it already works, it's already obsolete in some way, not as a threat to your experience, but as an invitation to improve absolutely anything that you choose to improve. It's all out there, and you've just got to do the learning, and it's all up for grabs.
Yeah, definitely. That's super helpful, officer. Thank you so much. This has been very, I love the position, like the change, to change your mind. If it's already working, it's already obsolete. That is an interesting way to approach things because it's true. If we're just 1% better every day, we're providing better service. We're evolving our processes. We're becoming better humans. It's about connection. It's about authenticity. It's all of those things, and whatever area is guiding us, of course. That's really powerful. So I'm
Mm.
excited. I'll check out your book and I'll look forward to reading that. It sounds like a one of those that you can come back to over and over again for help, which is one of my favorite types.
And actually, to be honest, it's such a simple process. Once you wrap your head around it, I almost do it automatically now. You can just sort of have a problem. It might be a problem at home, it might be a relationship thing, or it might be something at work. It doesn't matter. And you
Yeah.
can just run through it really quickly and say, well,
I
why do
remember
I
what
have
I
that?
was gonna say. It's crazy because it was so clear to me and then it like evaporated from my brain and like now I remember one of the biggest things I see entrepreneurs and people, not even just entrepreneurs, but
Mm,
people, it's like they're pining for this sense of security and consistency.
mm,
We build routines so that we can have a plan, right? We're working so hard in our business so that one day it can just run smoothly.
mm,
I've seen entrepreneurs who are like, why can't it just work already? I'm so frustrated. I feel like I'm always putting out fires. It's like, well, obviously building processes and systems helps to mitigate a lot of that. But
can do.
that's when we can elevate and start working on like elevating, not just putting out the fires. We
Mm,
want to be creative and moving the business forward. But at no point, I don't think, does it make sense to strive for mediocrity or what is
hmm.
the word? Homeostasis, like
Yeah, yeah,
science
yeah.
is talk
Keeping
about
things the same. Yeah,
homeostasis.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like plants. If a plant, it's either growing or it's dying. Like there's really very little in between. You might get away with
It's
not
true.
watering it for a couple weeks, but at some point it's got to produce or
Mm,
it withers up. And I think we need to just change our whole mindset and embrace what you're saying because it literally is the way we are designed. Like you said in the beginning, as humans, we are human beings, we are human evolution. And to try to have that mindset of, oh, I'm just gonna stay. If I could just have
mm.
nothing go wrong, it means also nothing really great is happening, like necessarily,
Yeah.
right? So it's just
Well,
interesting.
it is interesting, Lindsay, and I think it's because in the part this is different. This is a new skill. We didn't used to have this. Our grandparents, great grandparents. The world didn't move that much. You could learn a skill in your lifetime, and you could use that skill for all of your working life, and it would serve you very well. I mean, there was obviously change, but it wasn't as dramatic. So what's different now is the minute you strive to say, right, I've got everything right, it's all working well. This is my business, and this is how I operate. Guess what? Everything outside of your business is still changing. It's still moving forwards. So you're now stuck in this point that you've chosen. And guess what? You're moving backwards, not forwards. So that is a different thing. And that's why we need to have this future ready mindset of being more progressive with our thinking, more open to new possibilities, and constantly wanting to learn and grow. I hear it so often from businesses that you've probably heard this as well. People say, "Oh well, we're going to put off this project until next year when we've got the new IT system, or when when this merger is finished, or when this change has happened," and we sort of think that in the future it's all going to be easier. It won't. It will be
Mm,
harder. So there is no better time to start than now. And it's very lazy and easy to put off the change because you think, "Oh well, it's not quite the perfect circumstances today." There will never be the perfect circumstances. That new system or that new process you've come up with, guess what? It's already obsolete. It won't be perfect. Only once you're in it, you'll realize, oh, it could have been better. Oh, no, there's a new way of doing it. I never thought of that. That's
yeah.
the difference.
I,
That's why we have to have our eyes open all the time, looking for the possibilities for our personal growth and for the growth of those that we care for.
I love it. You're right. Thank you so much for participating and contributing to the show. I believe every guest that comes here is with intention. I'm very intentional about who we bring on the show, but I just want to say thank you for contributing your voice and your message. You're making a difference, and I appreciate you.
I appreciate you taking me on as well. Thanks ever so much.